nearly 300 crashes in Virginia, more than 70 accident calls in parts of West Virginia, highways shut down, emergency crews overwhelmed. This wasn't a forecast. This was the reality of one winter storm. At first, it looked harmless. Just a gentle December snowfall drifting across Virginia's highways. But within minutes, that calm winter scene collapsed into chaos. Cars spinning out of control, trucks jackknifing, and drivers sliding helplessly on invisible ice.
Oh, look, look, look. Holy moly. Slow down, stupid. These guys. Oh, to hit the other side.
By the end of the day, nearly 300 crashes would turn an ordinary weekday into a statewide emergency. Today is January 7th, 2026. And officials are now confirming just how quickly a fast-moving winter storm transformed large parts of Virginia and West Virginia into danger zones. What began as a quiet December snowfall appeared almost peaceful. Snowflakes drifted down across rooftops, open fields, and highways, coating the landscape in a soft white glow. For many drivers, it looked like nothing more than a typical winter day. But beneath that beauty, something far more dangerous was forming. A powerful storm system barreled across the mid-Atlantic, dragging Arctic air behind it and dropping a rapid mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain.
Thunder snow.
Temperatures hovered right at the freezing point, the most dangerous range possible. Instead of melting, precipitation bonded instantly to the pavement. Roads that appeared merely wet were already freezing over. Within minutes, bridges and overpasses, exposed to cold air from all sides, froze solid. A thin, nearly invisible layer of black ice spread across Virginia's busiest roadways, turning highways into traps waiting to spring. Drivers had no warning. Vehicles traveling at normal speeds suddenly lost traction. Cars began sliding sideways at 45 and 50 miles per hour. Pickup trucks fishtailed across lanes. Large commercial trucks struggled to brake, their weight working against them as tires locked and skidded. Engines stalled. Vehicles drifted off the road and into snow-covered ditches. Some spun completely around before slamming into guardrails. Others simply slid, helpless, until gravity decided their fate. By late morning, the storm had already transformed major corridors, including Interstates 81, 77, and 64, into unpredictable hazard zones. Even experienced winter drivers underestimated how fast conditions were deteriorating. And then the accident reports began pouring in. From midnight through the evening hours, nearly 300 crashes were recorded across Virginia in less than a single day. State police described the surge in emergency calls as overwhelming. In central Virginia alone, close to 70 accidents were reported, with multiple crashes involving serious injuries. One trooper described seeing dozens of vehicles off the road within just a 2-mile stretch, all victims of the same invisible sheet of ice. What made the situation even more alarming was how quickly it escalated. At around 4 p.m., officials counted roughly 155 crashes statewide. Just 4 hours later, that number had jumped by more than 130 additional accidents. Motorists who believed they could beat the storm soon discovered the storm had other plans. As nightfall approached, visibility dropped, temperatures continued falling, and the danger multiplied. One of the most severe crashes occurred in Prince George County, where a sedan and a pickup truck lost control on black ice and collided head-on along a rural roadway. Investigators later confirmed that both drivers slid across the center line at nearly the same moment, powerless to stop. When first responders arrived, the scene looked like something out of a winter survival documentary. Vehicles were mangled and twisted. Tire tracks zigzagged across the frozen pavement, physical proof of how little control drivers had once the slide began. Firefighters and EMS crews worked in falling snow to reach the victims. One person was rushed to a nearby hospital as emergency teams raced off to respond to yet another crash just minutes away. Across Virginia, patrol cars bounced from scene to scene. Dispatch centers were flooded with calls faster than emergency units could be deployed. Highways became obstacle courses of disabled cars, jackknife trucks, and abandoned vehicles buried in fresh snow. Authorities urged residents to stay off the roads unless it was a true emergency. But by then, the storm had already crossed from inconvenience into full-scale crisis. And while Virginia struggled with hundreds of crashes, West Virginia was facing a disaster of its own. As the storm pushed west into the Appalachian region, snowfall intensified rapidly. Counties including Kanawha, Raleigh, and Mason were blanketed with heavy, slippery snow that froze almost instantly. The National Weather Service upgraded advisories to winter storm warnings, signaling that conditions were deteriorating faster than expected. In Kanawha County alone, emergency dispatchers logged more than 70 accident calls by early afternoon. Vehicles slid off steep hillsides, cars spun out on winding mountain roads, large trucks lost traction on icy grades. On Interstate 64, multiple crashes forced lane closures, leaving drivers stranded for hours in bitter cold. On U.S. Route 35, several tractor-trailers jackknifed or veered into ditches, struggling against slick pavement and steep terrain. But the most dramatic moment of the storm unfolded on a bridge in Mason County. A tractor-trailer traveling along U.S. Route 35 hit a patch of black ice and instantly lost control. The massive vehicle skidded sideways, smashed through a guardrail, and came to rest with its cab dangling nearly 100 feet above the ground, suspended over open air. For a terrifying moment, the only thing preventing the truck from plunging into the abyss was twisted metal clinging to the bridge. Inside the cab, the driver was trapped, unable to move, fearing that even the slightest shift could send the truck over the edge. Snow continued to fall, coating the wreckage as emergency crews rushed to the scene. Firefighters from the Hurricane Fire Department initiated a high-angle rope rescue, a complex operation normally reserved for cliffs and mountain evacuations. Rescuers anchored ropes, descended over the bridge, and carefully reached the suspended cab. With the wind whipping and ice groaning beneath them, they broke the window, secured the driver in a safety harness, and slowly pulled him to safety. After hours of tension, the rescue succeeded. The driver survived. Images of the dangling truck and firefighters hanging beside it spread rapidly, becoming the defining symbol of the storm, a chilling reminder of how quickly winter weather can turn deadly. As the storm finally loosened its grip, both states were left to confront the aftermath. Highways were littered with wreckage. Tow trucks lined the interstates. Emergency crews worked through the night clearing debris and checking stranded vehicles. Temperatures dropped again overnight, threatening to refreeze roads that had just been cleared. Officials issued a familiar warning the next morning: delay travel. Conditions remain dangerous, but beyond the wreckage and statistics lay a deeper lesson. Winter storms are arriving earlier, intensifying faster, and leaving less room for error. What looks beautiful can become life-threatening in minutes. Yet amid the chaos, there was resilience. Neighbors helping neighbors, first responders working nonstop, and communities coming together in the face of danger. Because in every storm, there is both destruction and humanity. And sometimes, it's the courage in those moments that matters most.